In this portion of the demonstration, we'll give you an overview and go through some of the basic function in the system. First, we'll log into the system. You can see a couple of screens flashed up. We'll talk about those later, but essentially it shows you the events for today and then if there are any unconfirmed events. And then payments, and this is optional, but payments due within the next 30 days. So the first screen typically that you'll see when the system starts is the graphical calendar. From here you can see all the events for the month, and the arrows will let you navigate to different dates backward and forward. When you click on a day, you'll see up in the right hand corner here that the events for that day are shown here. If you click on an event, down below here you'll see the events start and end times and their locations. You can also, for example, look at the location usage for the day that's highlighted. In this case we're using the Valley Room and also the North Ballroom. We did that by clicking on the locations function here. If we right mouse click on an event, we'll see that that banquet event order is printed to the screen. And we'll talk more about these later, but essentially there's a section that talks about the client, a section that talks about event setup, and then the order information for the event. In this case we have a 2-page event order. And then down here we have information that you can enter. That's a template for contractual kind of information if you have a very basic contract. We'll close this, back to the screen. If we double click on an event, we can go to the event information. Here's the basic information about the event: its start time, its date, the guest count, if there's a contract due date, guarantee due date, if there's been deposit made and the date of that deposit. And then you'll see another tab here, and that talks about the client for the event. So here's where you would have the client information, their address, their telephone number, credit card information, and so on. The other tab here is for options, and this is, for example, controlling the sequence of the things that are displayed in the event, whether it's by date, by event name, or by event number. And then when you generate events, whether the date or the event number or both will be part of the name. For example, in this case, the information here was generated. The event is 3/17/06 and it's event number 9 in the system. From the event screen you can jump to, for example, the order screen, and here's where the orders for the event are shown. And if you wanted to include something else, for example, let's add another appetizer, and we're going to do seafood stuffed crepe. We select the category of appetizer, we select the item. This is priced per person, so we click add item, and now we can see that that's added to the event order. And here you can see the totals have been accumulated for the various items. Tax has been calculated, the service charge has been calculated, and the per person rate has been calculated. While you're in the order screen, you can change the information here if you're authorized to change it. Let's say, for example, you really need 8 rounds. You can just change it here, click on something else, and then the totals are all updated for you. The same would apply, for example, if your menu was set up as taxable, everything was taxable, but there was a mistake, and let's say that this item here should not be taxable, then you can put a uppercase N in there, and then that tax will be taken out. So we'll take it out of all the rental items, for example. And you can see that the tax is changing down at the bottom of the screen. The same would apply for service charge, for example. And as well, you could change the price. Again, if you're authorized to change the price. For example, if you're coded as a sales type user when you set up in Caterpro, then you cannot change the price. See up here also, before you put an item in, you can indicate a percentage discount here for the item. And that's the basic event order screen. Now we'll exit here and go to the setup screen. Here's where you would put information about arrival times, serving times, where the dancing, dinner is served, the table setups if you wish, and here you can type any information about the event. Colors for the event, napkins, tablecloths. And these fields here are additive. In other words, if you type something into the system, then it's going to be saved, and next time you need that color napkin, you just click the drop down box and select the one you want. And that's pretty much universal in the system when there's drop downs. The other function on the setup screen is the ability to block out rooms. And you'll see here, for example, in the location drop-down, there are various locations that you put in. Office and residence come with the system, and those are not checked for conflicts. But assume that you put in a location called North Ballroom. In this case, North Ballroom will be blocked from 7 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. and no one will be able to schedule that room. Later on we'll talk about the locations functions where you can collapse and expand rooms, for example a grand ballroom that consists of three other rooms, and ensure that those rooms are not overbooked. We've changed the setup instructions so that now you can have up to 10 sets of functions and locations. So if you scroll down here, you'll see we have where there's setup, ceremony, first course served, entree served, etc. So now we've added additional areas down here where you can have dancing, last dance, cake cutting, and so on and so forth. So that's been added to the setup instructions function. We've also changed this area down here where in the past it was rounds for 8 to now it specifies tables for 8. Be more flexible. And we've also allowed for restricting only user type all if you wish. In preferences you set a parameter there so that these items cannot be changed except by user type all, and also the locations cannot be changed except by user type all. So this would be where you wanted to keep track of a specific fixed set of things here, because you can get reports based on locations and functions and so forth. And if you wanted to get a strict set of reports, then you wouldn't want to allow anybody to just add anything here. We'll exit here. The other thing that you can go to from here is what's called the take list. The take list is the items that you might take with you if this were an outside event. And you can generate this list. There's a default that's provided with Caterpro, but this list can be generated by you. And then you might indicate numbers in here, and if you double click you get the guest count plus 5% or so. And then these are the things that you would bring to the event with you. And you can create a checklist and check the items in and out. There's also an area for kitchen instructions, and here's the basic information about the event. And let's say that you wanted to specify something specific about the appetizer. You double click it, you click on kitchen instructions, and now it brings up the menu description for the appetizer. And then if you wanted to indicate, I want to do 4 pounds of shrimp, 3 pounds of crab meat, whatever, for this item. There's also a screen for additional information, and here's where you can put the bride's name, the groom's name, where the ceremony is going to be held, who the photographer is, who the videographer is. And again, these are drop-down boxes. Once you add something in here, the system will save that. You can go to the payment screen from here and set up a schedule of payments, for example, and it'll accommodate 12 payments. You can enter information about the site, and let's say, for example, this was Company ABC's conference room. You could put the address for that site here. You could put driving directions and save that as a template, and then anytime you called up that site, that location as a location for the event, that information could be automatically shown for this event. A new function is the file associations function, and this function allows you to associate files that are in your system or on the network with your event. So for example, and we're going to delete this relationship to just show you how you would create a relationship. You would select the drive letter and then the folder that you want to look in. In this case, we're going to find a banquet event order for this event. We don't have that file type yet in our system, so we're going to enter the type of PDF, and then we're going to click Save. And now we have saved the relationship between that file, beo1.pdf, and this event, 50th anniversary party. If we click on the Open button here, then Caterpro is going to launch whatever program owns that extension, the PDF extension. In this case, it's Adobe Acrobat. So Adobe Acrobat gets opened with that file. If you want to delete a relationship that's established in the system, you just click on the Delete button and you exit that event. Then the event will be saved and the associations will be saved. And that's the file association function. Many different ways to print this event. You can print it as a banquet event order. You can print it as setup instructions for your setup people. In that case, it will not have pricing information. So here you can see here's the menu, but there are no prices associated. Here's the banquet event order. And this you might email to a client, for example. And also as an invoice. Of course, an invoice doesn't have the setup information in it. You can also print letters from here, put a cover letter to this. If you click on that, then it's going to open up Microsoft Word to the template for the event cover letter. And there's a capability in Caterpro for you to modify the templates that exist. Here's where you get the template, and then the next thing you would do would be to click on the merge, and the merge would take place, and then fill in the information about the event. I'm closing Word now, and it's asking me if I want to save these, and I don't. You can also generate an email from here for this client. You click on the email option up there, and if, for example, you want to send this as the event as a rich text format, all you need to do is click yes here, click a subject, or type in a subject, and then any message that you want to give to your client. And then you would say create the attachment, and here we're exporting the records to a rich text format file. And then if I wanted to save that file so I could refer back to that specific what I sent to that person later, I could click Save File here, indicate a name here for that file, and then click Save File, and then click Send. And the message was sent to kelly@fastmail.net with an attachment. A new function in the emailer is the ability to attach up to 3 attachments to an email. So let's say you want to email a banquet event order. So you click I want to email the current event, which is the event we're just on, and click on Create Attachment. And then the export function will create the attachment in rich text format. And then you would put the subject line, any text for the event. And then let's say you wanted to attach a file. So let's look in the Caterpro folder, and we'll look at the file we want to attach is called appendix.pdf. So we already have the BEO, banquet event order, in rich text format attached here. So we would just double click on the appendix, or click on the appendix PDF, and now we can see that the appendix PDF has been added to the attachments. And let's say we want to attach another one. Now when we click Send, the email will be generated with 3 attachments. And that's the new function in Emailer. The final function I'll show you on this screen is the rental order function. You click on the rental order icon. This brings up a grid that contains your rental items, and you need to select a supplier. In this case, we'll select ourselves as the supplier. And then you would have the rental items that you have in your menu. There's only a couple of menu items here. Key is in the category name, you'll have in this case rentals. In this case, rentals China. There could be a rentals glassware, rentals tableware, and so on. And on this screen, then you just simply enter numbers, and if you enter a number, then that number will be added to the order when it's saved. And we'll exit here, and we can go back to the order screen and see that we've now added these rental items to the order. And that's an order view of the event screen. A change that's been made in version 12 for the calendar is the ability to view the evening events versus the daytime events by clicking on a date. And for example, over here you can see at 4 p.m. there's no highlighting. 6 p.m. and 7:30 events are highlighted. You can also look at this window and determine which events are confirmed and which are not confirmed. In this case, you can see that the primary care network event is confirmed because it's bold, and the Morgan Stanley event is not confirmed because it is not bold. The other thing you can do on this screen now is to move to the current date. So for example, if you've gone back a few months, you used to have to click this arrow forward, the number of months. Now you can click on File, Show Today, and it'll jump you right to today's date. One of the changes that's been made is a new account number field. And if you put an account number in here, then that account number will be carried over to events and be shown on any events output. The other change that's been made is a new viewer function. So for example, if you wanted to see all of the events that were in the system, you'd click on Events, then Display All. The sort order by default would be by date. Then click Get Data, and all the events would be shown. If you want to go to one of those events, you click it, and then click the Event Information tab, and you're there. If, for example, you want to look at clients in the database, you would select the Clients option. If you want to create a new event for Jane Doe, let's say, you click Jane Doe, then click the event information. You'll see the client information is filled in with Jane Doe. So you would you would enter the information for Jane Doe. So it's kind of a convenient way to look at things that are in the database and sort them in particular ways and jump around in the database. The other change that's been made here is to allow for direct entry of a gratuity amount. And again, in the preferences, you have to specify that you want to allow for a direct entry of gratuity. In that case, if you entered that parameter in the preferences, then you could put a gratuity amount here, use the amount entered, $500, $500, update the event, and now the gratuity would be included in the outputs. The quick entry function is accessed from the Caterpro calendar, and the quick entry function is intended for more or less simple events, or at least starting the basic event. And here you can put the event information in, basic event information, event name, the date, start time, guest count, occasion. You can also put in from the setup screen in the events function, you can put in setup functions and location information, start time and end time. You can also select from existing clients, or you can enter a new client from this screen. And so we'll give you an example here. Type in Evans Reception, and it's 02/28/2007. Put a start time, a guest count. And now let's say that this is for a new client, and so we're going to enter some new client information in here. So we have Bill Smith, and that's enough to get us going, so we'll click Add Event. And now we have that event added to the database, as you can see down here. So now we're going to put some order information in against this event. And this is more or less the same order function that you're going to see from the event screen. So here we'll select chicken parmesan dinner entrees, and we'll add that item. And we'll select desserts and tiramisu, and we'll add that item. And now we have added 2 items to this. Now you can see down here the tax event field. If, for example, this event was for an existing client that was tax exempt, and you selected their name by clicking a button here and then selecting their name from the drop-down list. If that individual was tax exempt, it would show up here. However, you cannot change that. You cannot update existing records here. You can bring them up to make them hosts for events and so forth, but you cannot assign them as tax exempt or modify the phone number and so on and so forth here. That is still a function that's reserved for the events. You can see when you click on the calendar now that event has been added. And if I double click that, then I can go to the event screen. And here's where I see the full menu of information, the setup information, the order information, and so on. You can see in this case we have no information here, so we can put that in. We could have entered the first location, first function on the quick entry screen. So that's the quick entry function.